The other day I was outside mowing the yard, and you know how it is when you're mowing the yard or doing something like that. You have grandiose thoughts. And I got to thinking about this time when families are, um, to some degree, being confined to share the house with each other, more so than they might normally be with the quarantine. And I know it's been hard for a lot of people. But one of the things I got to thinking about is how, when we're together, we often like to tell stories. Hello there, Nutmeg. And Basil wants to get into the attention too. Um, how we like to tell stories. You know, this is a good time to take the time to tell stories. Why do we tell stories? We tell stories because they help us to savor old memories. But more than that, stories are a way that we can, if you will, verbally capture things that are important to us. You know, the story of how people came together after 9/11. Uh, it's not just a story about flag waving and all that, but it's a story of community, kind of community we need now. Stories about how people held together and stood up during the civil rights movement. It's a story of standing for what you believe is right and taking the risk to make change. And there are stories from World War II. There's still people who are still alive who can share those stories, and, both from the military standpoint and from the civilian standpoint, with recycling and rationing and things like that. I don't know who said it. I've heard it attributed to C.S. Lewis. I've heard it attributed to Chesterton. Um, but it goes something paraphrased that we don't read fantasy stories in order to learn the specific techniques for killing dragons. We read those stories to learn that dragons can be killed. They can be conquered. We got a big dragon out there. Let's share those stories that encourage us, that help us to, that reinforce community, reinforce our faith, that reinforce the fact that the American flag flies not as the government or anybody else, but as Peter and Paul and Mary sang, uh, it's blowing in the wind. It's the answers in the American people. So let's share those stories and encourage each other. Blessings.